Hey everyone, Ray here, Raymond, whatever you want to call me. It's been May since I've posted an episode, and this episode's actually been sitting on the memory card since then, and I honestly don't have a right reason or a way to rationalize this typical alcoholic. Plan on bringing, well, not so much bringing the show back, but because the show's still here, but working on this, I owe it to the recovery group, you know. Yeah, I'm kind of lost for words. It's probably not the best thing for a podcast host to do, but that's just the truth. I get other ideas, start working on other ideas, and other things get put on the back burner. But people have been reaching out to me, but I need to get other people on this show. That's how this show is working, was interviewing other people in recovery. I may be rolling out some other topics, stuff like that, solo shows in the meantime, just to keep content up here about recovery. I don't know. Let me know. You can always email me at manypathspodcast@gmail.com if you've got any ideas or if you'd like to be on the show. I do get emails for people doing books and stuff like that, but I just want the real people, you know, doctors and stuff like that. It's not the same. It's not the same. Unless they're an actual person in recovery or an alcoholic or an addict. So, but this episode here, this was recorded back in May 25th, would have been 1 year. So the podcast has been around a year. I'm coming up on my 2 years of sobriety. So this episode is called The Sober Heathen, which I've got to reach out to him. So check out his podcast if you need something else to listen to as well, while I figure out what I'm going to do with this and which direction we're going to go with this. I'm just going to be honest. I should be doing this. This should be a big part of my recovery, and I need to get focused. So, but main thing is I am sober. Still going strong with that. There's not a good enough excuse of why I'm not doing this as frequent as I was. Today is October 1st, and I am 671 days sober.
I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
I'm an alcoholic.
I am again. I am an alcoholic.
I am an alcoholic.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. I am your alcoholic host. My name is Raymond, and today I have a very special guest on the show. He is a yogi and the author of the Kama Sutra.
Right.
I forgot your name.
That doesn't matter. That's Scott.
Oh,
The Kama Sutra God.
Kama Sutra God. Oh, okay. Scott, the Kama Sutra God. All right, Scott.
You can get my signed copy. Find me on OnlyFans.
It's sitting on my coffee table. It's my guests have been enjoying that book very well. So
You're welcome.
it's a good conversation starter.
It really is.
People are like, "What are they talking about?" I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just come up with stuff, and well, there's our icebreaker. Scott, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Scott. I'm from the Mitten State. I got 20 years experience in drinking. Uh, I've done just about all that you can. Got all the achievements that you can achieve in alcoholism, all the way up to 4 OWI rewards. But currently on my, hopefully the last, but my best stretch of recovery. I just hit 8 months, about a week or so ago, and never felt better.
8 months, man. That's pretty good accomplishment, man. You're coming up to that 1 year birthday cake.
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine, but it's creeping up here. It's unreal. Never thought it could happen, but if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I say that too. But now, if you use the term, if I could do it, anyone can do it. Why do you say it that way?
Well, as an alcoholic and myself, and I think others, we don't give ourselves a lick of credit for the little things that we do, and it's a standard operating procedure to belittle yourself every chance that you get. So I'm working on that. It's a work in progress. 8 months is awesome, and I do need to pat myself on the back for that, because you can't get to 9 months without 8 months. You can't get to 8 months without 30 days, and every little victory is meaningful. One thing that I'll find people on Twitter and I will retweet them and I will, congratulate them up and down, and I mean it with every fiber of my soul when I do it. But I haven't found the willingness to forgive myself and do the same thing for myself. And I recognize that. So I feel like that's a win. That's progress, as we talked about before we started recording. I think it is progress towards healing and understanding. Once I can hear the crap that's coming out my mouth and I can analyze it, then I can start to work through it. Before I wouldn't recognize it. I'd just say stupid shit and run myself into the ground. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if I should swear or not, but we were talking about the Kama Sutra, so I think the S word might be all right. But no, it's work in progress. So
you can say whatever you want, man. This is hey, it's a safe space. I guess you call it a safe space, or I don't know. I'm not trying to be woke or anything, but I'm just saying it's that's what this is what this platform's for. Just be yourself, man.
right.
I don't even think I apologized when I came on to your show and was saying all kinds of. I just let it flow.
Yeah, and then that's how I like it too, man. But you never know. I've had plenty of guests come on and be like, "Oh my God, I shouldn't have said that," or "Sorry that I kind of said this or that." And it's like, I think I need to do a disclaimer before I start every time. Like, whatever comes out your mouth is totally fine with me, because I don't have to post it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to probably anyway, unless it's something really rude to other people.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it. I haven't really seen anyone in recovery with too much hateful ideology, but I'm sure there's it's out there. So I think that's a good rule of thumb right there. So
yeah, I haven't. I mean, the communities that I'm involved with on social media are 99.9% awesome. Just great people with intent of helping and picking each other up. And then you have that 0.1% that want to come on and say, "This is how you do it. This is how I did it. This is the only way you do it." They cross that line, to almost, belittling people for their mistakes, which I think is ridiculous, especially when you don't know this human that you're belittling on social media. And if there was one cut and dry way to do recovery, that way would have 100% success rate. and I haven't seen it or heard about it. And I've been in 4 different treatment centers. I think that they all would be trying to do that thing if it was foolproof, and it's not. So I think it's, for me, I support any way that you can do it. And however you get it done and you stay sober, it's good enough for me.
Now, you mentioned 4 treatment centers.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming the treatment centers isn't what got you sober, but it was kind of like a starting point, maybe?
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, the first one I went 100% for my family. I had just gotten engaged to the love of my life, and the wheels are falling off. I was hiding it the best I could, and it was still in that time where everything was still super lovey-dovey. I really hadn't hurt any feelings. It was more concern. So I remember the day before, well, a couple days before I went, her son came up and was crying and hugged me and said, "Scott, you have to go. You have to go get help." And so I started crying. I'm like, Jesus, if the kid says it, I'll give it a shot and I'll make everybody happy. So it was a 30-day program. I ended up staying for 26 days because, I'm a good worker. I study well, and when that's the only thing to do, I kill it. So they cut me loose 4 days early. And I was like, I'm all done. I went through a huge transformation and I lost so much weight. I came home and shaved my head completely bald. I had a sweet tan. I remember walking through the grocery store with a pink bandana over my head and a cut off shirt and shorts, walking around like I was King Awesome. And then just weeks later, I was right back to the same shit. And so then, I got kicked out once, moved back in with my ex-fiance because of the drinking. Fought a little bit. I wanted to quit. I didn't. I just wanted to stop. I didn't know how, but I didn't really want to stop. I know it doesn't make any sense, but if you've gone through it, you understand that, every day that I woke up and said, I'm done, I'm never fucking drinking again, I meant it. But I always found a way to drink again, even sometimes unconsciously, just like find myself buzzed sitting downstairs at the computer and like, here I go again. Well, I'm already drunk, so I might as well just finish off what I got. Tomorrow I quit. And tomorrow never came. It was always tomorrow. So then last year, 2022, I went to my second treatment and I stayed for 60 days. Same thing. Just all of a sudden, I was like in the 50 days. I didn't have a plan on how long I was going to stay. And I was coming up on 50 some days, or I was at 50. And it just hit me. I'm like, hey, you should ask if you can be released and pass treatment. So I went and I talked to my counselor. He's like, yeah. He's like, you've done everything we required. You're doing a great job. And I don't see why you couldn't go home. And so I was like, awesome. And again, I felt better than I'd ever felt in years. I made sure to spend the little bit of money that I was sent, bought everybody pop the last couple of days before I left, just to not have any money in my pocket. And I got home. My grandfather picked me up, drove me 2.5 hours home. He gave me a big hug before he left and shook my hand, and he had $100 bill in his hand. And that's literally all it took. Within 4 hours of leaving treatment, I had pints of vodka sitting on my desk and in my system. And all it took was a handshake. So clearly that wasn't it. So 30 days later, after waking up in the hospital at least 4 or 5 times, I went back to treatment. And long and short of it, I went to 3 treatments in that calendar year, 2022, 250 days of treatment. And I found a job working at a treatment center as a behavioral health tech. And where I was at up in northern Michigan, it's beautiful. It's a place called Petoskey. It's just simply stunning. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth, especially in the summer. You can see the big blue, beautiful water and green trees. It's just fantastic. Well, with it being like that, it's really hard to find a place to stay. So as I was living in sober living, my time ran out and I ended up being homeless for like 2 nights. And within those 2 nights, I ended up drunk and got my 4th OWI and went back to jail. And so that led to the fourth treatment. And it wasn't until that fourth treatment that I finally started to take everything that I'd learned in the previous three, everything I'd learned in AA and Peer 360 and all the different recovery. Because I went to, there's one day during COVID I went to 9 Zoom meetings in one day all over the world. So I was doing the work. I just couldn't figure out the want, and I didn't think as silly as it sounded to me before, I didn't feel I deserved it, it was a little bit of that, and it was a little bit of delusion that I could figure it out how to drink normally. And so that last treatment really sucked. It was not a good treatment center. I learned nothing, but it forced me to take everything that I had in my toolkit and start working on a foundation. And it was there alone in a dark room where something happened that, it was unexplained, and it pointed me in a direction, and it gave me something to cling on to that was greater than alcohol. And so, yeah, that was a short answer made long. But 4 treatment centers, and it wasn't until after they were all done that I started on my journey.
And to this point at the journey, and you started building your foundation. So you started when you came to the program after the, well, I shouldn't say program, but your path of recovery. Which path did you seek, and what were you working? Because I know I don't know if all my listeners know you are an atheist at this point.
Yeah, I was an atheist all the way up until my second. It would have been my third treatment, but my second time at Harbor Hall in Petoskey, Michigan. And everything had just, I could go until everything was gone. My ex-fiance Miley wouldn't talk to me or answer the phone. My 10-year-old boys, well, they were 9 at the time, they wouldn't pick up the phone. When I called their number, nobody was talking to me. Everything was gone. My great-grandmother is 98. I was living with her, and it was coming up. She'd found me passed out and unresponsive so many times in the house, drunk, it was all over, and there was no hope. It felt like there's no hope. So they kept telling me, the spiritual director there, dude, he's a hell of a guy. Used to be a chaplain, and so he would be in ERs and being there for families that would have loved ones that were about ready to pass, and he'd have to deal with all that. And this dude just, I don't know, man. He wasn't pushing anybody. Nobody was there. It was a religious place, but nobody was like pushing the Bible or anything like that. They had church nights, and you weren't forced to go or anything like that. And they kept telling me, you just got to give in. And one thing he told me, and apparently there's a book, and I still haven't read it, but he told me one time in a one-on-one, because I went into his office just crying, because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know, I don't know what the hell to do, Dan. And he said, dude, you got to drop the rock. Because I started bringing up religion and stuff, and I was so focused on it. And he's like, you just got to drop the rock with that thing. So I took to that, and I started meditating or prayer, whatever you want to call it. And one thing led to another. I had this weird urge to walk across the parking lot and go find this stone. Like, that was my thought. Like, hey, go find the stone. And so I went over and I was walking along the dirt. They were building new construction, and I found this rock that had a bunch of holes in it. You know what I mean? It's like a holy rock. You know what I mean? So I grabbed it, and it looked like nothing else that I'd ever seen or that you see laying in there. And so I took it, and that was like, wow, that was kind of a weird sign. And then there's another time where, actually, when I got there, I had this lump on my arm, probably from falling down the stairs. And I remember, I was sitting in the stairwell there crying. I was hoping that when the doctor looked at it, it was cancer. And I was hoping that they would be like, yeah, it's really bad and you don't have much time. That's what I was praying for. That's where my mind was at when I went back to this time. And just, praying and the support there or whatever. And like I said, it wasn't until that fourth treatment. Well, okay, so going back to answer your question, actually, I gave in to there's something out there spiritually that was greater than me. There was something, that I could buy into. And when I found the rock, that's what started it. And then little things started to happen. And I remember standing in front of everybody at treatment and Dan being like, this guy used to be an atheist, And for me, an atheist is just somebody that, there's not enough evidence to justify a belief in any of the mainstream religions. That was my take on it. But things started to happen, and I was like, okay, well, there's things out there that, I can't explain. So I'm more agnostic, like I don't know. And that was the honest answer, because I don't really know. And then as I left there and I got the 4th OWI and I went into the last treatment, I continued to give in and research. I really found a connection with the old gods of Norse paganism, stories of and who they are. They were more relatable. And I started looking into the runes. I learned how to write an Elder Futhark. I learned all the runes, and things just started to happen. And, I might as well, I've been yammering on here nonstop, so I might as well tell you what happened. I took the runes, the Elder Futhark runes. I ordered some because you could order things from Amazon as long as it's approved when it got there. Otherwise, they'd put it in your belongings or whatever. And because I was a tech there before this happened, they knew me and they let me have my runes or whatever. And one night I'm sitting in the dark room. My roommates weren't in there. All the lights were off, and I sat in a chair and I just cried. And I just spoke out to whoever would listen. And I said, I need something. And I got a feeling to cast the runes. And the plan before I threw the runes on the table was that whatever popped up, I was going to take those runes and take the letters that were equivalent to those runes, and there would be a message there. So I did that. And I took all the runes that were face up after I cast them and set all the ones that were face down off to the side. And I organized all the letters. And the letters came out and they said, facing him, Jesus. That's what came out, where like I could put all the letters together, use them all where it made sense. Now, maybe somebody out there could take those letters, facing him, Jesus, and it was phonetically because it was Jesus with a Z, so it would have been Jezus, Jesus. I mean, it sounds right? So what's odd is when I was in this treatment, I befriended nobody, not my roommates or anybody. I wasn't rude or a dick or anything, but I was totally focused on my journaling and my big book and recovery. This was it. This was my last chance. I'm going to go to jail for a while. I'm going to lose my license for a while. Complete acceptance. There was one guy that I talked to. He's a little bit older than me. His name was Dennis, and he was a devout Catholic. And we had some really great, honest conversations with each other. And, he respected my beliefs. I respected his. We talked about the Bible and my concerns. And he just like, I just love talking to you. It's fascinating. So I got these words, and without telling him, I went and found Dennis and was like, hey, man, does facing him, Jesus, mean anything to you? And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, this day of the week we go and there's like a window and we put the stuff in here and it's called like facing him or facing Jesus. And everything else was like Charlie Brown's teacher. Once he said that, it was like, wah, 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 because my mind was blown. And then I told him, I said, look, this is what happened. And we both looked at our arms and the hair standing up. And he's like, that is incredible. He's like, he's almost in tears. I'm almost in tears. And I'm not saying that that's going to be something that's going to happen to everybody, because not everybody has a crazy story like that. But I was that bad of an alcoholic. I needed something to latch onto. I can't explain it. And so that's how I went from atheist to not atheist.
Atheist to not atheist. No, you're a heathen now. And that
I'm a heathen.
Yeah, that's what drew me to you. I'm like, I like heathens.
Yeah, and all that means is just I don't follow the big three. I don't follow Jesus, Allah, or Yahweh. That's all that means.
Yahweh.
Yeah, Yahweh would be. So I don't follow the Jewish God, the Christian God, or the Muslim God or Islam God.
I thought I'm not even going to get into it because I'll end up pissing someone off. I do that, and I'm not trying to do that. So I didn't know it was Yahweh. So Look at that. You're educating me today. So,
That's
man,
dangerous.
when you're saying drop the rock, I thought you went outside and you're going to find this rock and like drop it on his foot or something. And I'm just like, oh, but man, that's that's powerful, man. That's for something like that to just. But now with you mentioned journaling and you mentioned the big book.
Mhm.
So am I assuming you read the big book and what are you doing to like maintain to get you to where you're at right now? I mean, 8 months. I mean, are you doing work out of the big book or what are you doing to maintain your sobriety?
Yeah, I love the big book. I love the stories in the back. I love the first 164 pages. I thank Bill W. for just being the guy that he was and to write this in the 30s. I think there's a lot of good things in there. I know it's not for everybody. What I do now, I did mention journaling and treatment. You know, I think by the time I was done last year, I had 4 full notebooks full of journaling. But I hate writing, but you know, I didn't have a computer or anything in there to use. So the only thing I could do was write. So what I do now is I do like video journaling and then I post it on my podcast. I call it like daily diaries, and I'm going to start making myself do it every day. But up until now, I've been doing it as needed. You know, when there's shit bothering me, I get on and I post it, and that's me getting it out. That's me journaling it. And, you know, again, that's something else that I never believed that would work. And lo and behold, these people that are in recovery long term, like the counselors that were there, telling you to do it, it's like they know what the hell they're talking about. And yeah, and I do. I look at the big book as a textbook. There's a lot of good information in it because, you know, the drop the rock thing just meant let go of the freaking crap that you're holding against religion. You know, that's not what's important right now. You know, what's important is your recovery and finding something that works for you. And I didn't understand what he meant right away. So, you know, there was a block on the big book too, because it has that 3-letter word in it. But that's not it. If you read it, it Bill plainly states in there that that's just the easiest way to say higher power. They use God, and he lays that right out in there. And so if you're like me, once you get past that and read what he's saying, you know, he talks about how alcohol is just a symptom. And I think that's a huge thing for people to realize that the problem wasn't just the alcohol. There was a problem with my thinking and feelings and how to deal with them. And I didn't know how to do that. You know, a great example is one of my counselors there. He got sober and was sober for 9 years, and then his wife left him. Why? Because he didn't change the actual problem. Yeah, alcohol was a problem, but he was still a dick for 9 years after he quit drinking. So he didn't change that part that needed to be changed. You know, what created that. So they call it a dry drunk sometimes in AA. So yeah, I think the big book is great. It has its benefits. They have they have a lot of sayings in AA, but when you go to these different meetings, whether it's a secular meeting, meaning, you know, it's non-religious at all, or it's a AA meeting and it's super religious, you can take what you need and leave the rest. You don't need to focus on the things that you don't want to hear. Well, don't focus on the things that you disagree with.
Well, how long? Okay, how long did it take you to start figuring that out? And are you? Blah, 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 blah. Oh my goodness, tongue tied this morning.
Well said.
But how? I mean, 8 months. That's pretty quick thinking because you know there's a lot of bullshit I had to get away from in my early recovery, and was sitting in meetings and getting irritated listening to some people talk, and just you know. It took me to like I don't know what point was this a realization for you?
So it would have been between September of 2022 and October of 2022. And my journey began in 2018. That's when I started going to AA and I started going to these other meetings and started, looking into that. And then in 2020, that's when I got my first sponsor and went through the steps. We spent, I think it was 8 or 10 hours one day going through the steps on Zoom, and went through the whole process of burning my list of people that I had harmed, and went through everything. And so 2022 is when I really started doing the work. But it wasn't, did I say 2022? I meant 2020 is when I started to do the work. And then 2022 at the end of it, September, October is when I started to apply it.
So in what is going on here? Man, voodoo at its finest. I told you this is this is gonna get wrong. It's gonna get wrong today, and I don't know why. It was just like totally. The screen just flickered over here. Are you voodooing me, man?
I'm not trying to, not intentional.
Oh, okay.
Possible though.
So that just totally sidetracked me. So. Awkward silence, man. I'm all over the place. Give me a second here. I'm gonna end up having to edit this. Scott, you broke me today, man.
Well, I have that effect on people.
Yeah.
Trying to change it.
I can't believe this. I never shut up during my. I'm trying to make this about you, man. And
Well, is there anything that you relate to that I said? I mean, that's or
where do we leave off? I don't know what's going on with me today, to be honest.
You need a Dr. Pepper. That's probably the problem.
Probably. I've got some.
Now you would ask me when I started to apply it. It was a process,
Oh yeah.
Just didn't apply it right away, fortunately.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm like not focused for some reason. I've never had this happen. I feel like an idiot.
Well, you're not. You actually kind of just looking at your picture there. You kind of look like an angel. You got a halo around your head with your logo right behind you. It's beautiful.
Yeah. All right.
You're a beautiful angel.
All right. So yeah, I mean. Now, when you were going to sponsor, what was your sponsor like a traditional AA sponsor? And because I know you started your journey earlier than you came back, was this like traditional AA in person, or you said you did a lot of that on Zoom?
Yeah. I got shot down every time I asked somebody in person before COVID hit to be my sponsor, and then COVID hit. And I just happened to run into a dude. It was pretty interesting.
Wait a minute, you said shot down?
Oh yeah, I approached a couple people in person meetings to say, hey, would you be willing to be my sponsor? And they said, no. Let me think about it. Yeah, and then never got back to me. Well, I mean, it's not for everybody. So now that I know what I know, the meeting should have been organized a little better. I think that in every meeting, when they're doing their readings, before they open the meeting to conversation or the topic, they need to say, if you're willing to be a sponsor, can you raise your hand? So people know who they can go and talk to. They didn't do that at this meeting, and so I got shot down twice. And I'm not going to sit there and say that they put the bottle to my mouth. Nobody did that to me, but it definitely did not help. There were the two gentlemen that when they would share, I felt a connection with, but clearly they just weren't in a position in their recovery to take on a sponsee, I guess.
No, that makes sense. Then that makes sense.
I mean, that's not what they told me. It's just what I'm assuming. So it is what it is, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I can't assume what they're saying either. But it's just like, what's the statement of responsibility? It's. But,
yeah. I mean, I had everybody's number to reach out to or whatever, and I'm pretty sure. Thinking back now, I mean, this is a few years back. I'm pretty sure they were on the list, just to shoot a text to if you needed anything. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I gave off a weird vibe. I don't know. But I found my sponsor online. He was from Arizona. I'm from Michigan, but he was willing to. During the COVID time, I mean, he was sponsoring me and like 20 other people. So, I mean, that may or may not should have been a red flag. But he knew the big book very, very well. He used to go around with a woman and do speaking events. And so when he would share in meetings, the nightly meeting that we'd have, there's always a bunch of people in there. And when he would share, it was like the favorite time in the meeting because he was so passionate. You know what I mean? And I wanted what he had. It's just. He got too busy with all the things going on that there just wasn't that connection there toward the end.
Right. So you want to know what he had? Now I'm just kind of curious. Like in these treatment centers, is there any like step work or anything like that? And so you're actually doing work there. So
at Harbor Hall, the one I went to twice in 2022, that was their thing. It was an AA based treatment center. They had their own version of how to do the steps. And the second time I went there, I got through all 12 steps. They had a bunch of worksheets that you had to go through, and it was fascinating. I wish I would have kept the blank copies.
Okay. So what's the difference from doing that than coming out and doing like you're saying like Zoom meetings and working with a sponsor that way? What's maintaining it?
What's maintaining it for me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the best quotes that I heard when I was in there is connection is the opposite of addiction. So I've never been more connected in the recovery universe than I am right now with the hashtag recovery posse on Twitter, and then the groups on Facebook, and then, keeping in touch with dudes like you and women too. I mean, I have a variety of people that I can stay in contact with and get the positive reinforcement when I need it. I can get that healthy reminder, from people on Twitter that when I relapsed. It was somebody I retweeted this morning. They had like 900 days of sobriety and they just relapsed a month ago and they were celebrating 30 days all over again. And I just, seeing that, and people don't realize, and again, we talked about this earlier, about not giving yourself credit, and I'm willing to give everybody else credit, but that's a huge thing to do. You have all this time under your belt, probably people that have been following you and know how much time that you've had. And then you relapse and you come out and say, yeah, I screwed up. I'm all the way back in a month. That's brave. That's huge. That's taking accountability and posting it out there. I mean, I'm terrified that if something happened to me that I go run and hide in a hole. Thankfully though, the cravings are non-existent. The emotions are all over the place, but, I maintain with connection. My personal belief right now that you have one person that you rely on, like if you do the traditional AA or the way they've made it traditional, it doesn't say anything about a sponsor in the big book in the first 164 pages. It's nothing about that. But if AA today, where it's work the steps with a sponsor, call your sponsor every day, talk to your sponsor every day. Through my experiences, that's a whole lot of risk that you're putting on one person. because if they screw up or they disappear or they have things come up in your life and that's your only avenue, that just spells trouble. And that's just from my experience because it's happened twice. First sponsor, got too busy sponsoring everybody else. And then he got a job and then he wasn't around much for the meetings. And then my second sponsor, he tried to play, as they say in AA, play God a little bit. And, he had told my ex-fiance something and he told her that I was offering sexual favors to other women for alcohol. That's what he told her. So I reached out to him after treatment because I was really pissed off when she told me that. And that was part of the reason why she was, cutting things off completely. And I'm like, well, first of all, I was so drunk in the time period that he's talking about. I can't say that I didn't do it. I looked through my phone. I didn't see anything like that because I'm like, oh my God, who do I need to apologize to? Because I was desperate. I was trying to do anything I could to get alcohol. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility when you're all screwed up on alcohol, right? But there was no evidence on my end to suggest that happened. Then when I reached out to my second sponsor and asked him about it, he went cold and dark or not dark, but he magically was too busy to respond to almost everything that I reached out to. So I think that he just decided that he thought it was best that I never talk to Miley again and move on. He told her all but that, so he was trying to play God and he was thinking that she was part of my problem and I needed to let her go in order to recover when really I needed her support and love to get over this hump. So putting all your eggs in one basket for me is not going to happen. I'm going to keep my, the relationship that we've developed over the past, couple weeks. Those are more important to me, and to have a bunch of those, to share the load, to dump all my crap on one person, then have, I'll make it. I don't know if this is a good analogy, but this is what makes me think, with not having a job and having regular insurance, a lot of times the people that are counselors and the therapists that I'm assigned to because of my the insurance I have, which is state funded right now, you switch a lot, right? So it's like you go in here, you form a relationship with this person, you tell them everything, and you're building and working on something, and then something changes and you have to have a new person. And then so now you're starting way down here again and again and again and again. If I spread it out and have a bunch of people that I can go to, that connection is bigger. It's a bigger network. That's what's been working for me.
Yeah. Well, I was just sitting here thinking about this, and it's just like, don't put your recovery on someone else and expect them to keep you sober. You're the one that's got to keep yourself sober. You're the one that has to do the work. And when you're working with another person, they should just be making, the way I look at it and the way it worked for me is, now it's suggestive, but the sponsor I work with told me what to do because I needed it. I needed to do the work. I needed to be guided through this and have it dictated to me like what I need to do it. You know, because it wasn't just like, because I thought when I thought I had all this whooped and all this, and we just talked about this last week, but it's just like, I was able to catch on when I tried to work with someone else. Then I ended up finding my sponsor. Then I started finding my own ways just to add on to my recovery. Next Thursday, the show will be 1 year old. That was part of it. So that would have put me at December, January, like 6 months or almost. So it would have been almost 6 months of recovery. I started doing this podcast. So
awesome.
It was, this was my way of doing service work because I was getting in my head and doing my thinking like, well, they want me to do all this service work and I need to do this and service keeps me sober. I'll start a podcast. "Arr!" That serves, and it is, and it was serving a purpose for myself at the beginning, but now it's more impactful because I was sitting in a meeting the other day. Not the other day. It's been a good minute, but I don't want to say the other day. Well, maybe the other day because I think he's 6 months sober now. He found one of the meetings I go to and ended up getting a sponsor and all this. And he found a meeting because of this podcast. So
Awesome.
I'm just like, cool. This helped one person. That's the whole thing about this is, people get into podcasting and stuff like that just to, some do to make money and this, that, and another. And it's like, again, it's like, no one's listening to this and this, that, and another. Then you're just like, don't look at the numbers. It doesn't matter. Because if it helps one person, that's all that matters.
Sure.
So, and that's what's that's the other thing why I wanted you to have on here is when did you start your podcast? Everyone, this is Scott, the host of the Sober Heathen podcast.
Yeah, I started my podcast when I got out of treatment. The last one, I started it in October. Yeah, November. I don't remember. October or November last year. I just started doing. I was like, screw it. You know what? I spent a lot of time in jail there for a minute, and I wrote a bunch of ideas down. And I'm like, I'm just going to talk about what's going on in my recovery. And I released a couple videos, got some good feedback from friends, and then went back to jail for 2 months, and spent a lot of time in there. I came out with like a packet this thick of ideas for a podcast, and then so I just started every few days. I started putting them out, and then all of a sudden, a couple people agreed to come on, and then a couple more, and then a couple more, and then this past week, I've only had one day that I haven't had a podcast. A couple of days, there were two at a time. And, it's just, I can't tell you how honored I am that people are willing to have me on a podcast to talk and are willing to come on and talk to this stranger and share their story with everybody. And you're absolutely right. Whenever I get a DM or an email or a comment that's, people are like, oh, listen to this podcast, or a DM that says, thank you so much. I really related a lot to this. It's really helpful. It's totally worth it. Yeah.
You started that early in your recovery, like way early. I mean, that's.
Well, yeah. And I think that's a good point because, in AA and a lot of the meetings, it's like, well, you got to have 6 months or a year to speak. You can't sponsor anybody until you've done this or that. And I think that's, my podcast, I advertise it as, I don't care if you have 3 days sober, if you want to come on and talk about how you're doing it and why you're doing it or whatever. I think that's healthy because those stories help keep me sober. I mean, the newcomer, they say in meetings, AA are the people that help keep you sober. They're healthy reminders of where you don't want to ever go again. And for me, hearing somebody with 30 years of sobriety, it was really hard to relate to at times at speaker meetings because it's like, well, you've been doing it for 30 years. Do you even remember what it's like? That was like a lifetime ago. And that's wrong of me to do that because there's always something good from it. But my point is, like, the people that are fresh into it, man, it's a healthy reminder, and their voices need to be heard too. And you never know. If somebody has an opportunity to come on and tell their story in super early recovery, that might be that little bit of strength that they needed to carry on.
No, that's a good thing. And I agree with that. It's, when I'm in meetings and stuff, and I hear people talk about I'm in early recovery. I've only got like 2 weeks or 90 days or just anything less than a year. It's just like, and they're like, well, I don't know if I have anything to bring to the table and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Because you're reminding someone that's farther down the road of why we're here. And that's like the biggest thing, because it's like, I agree. You listen to someone with 15, 20, 30 years of recovery, and it's just like, it sounds like guru material. It's like they've been doing it so long, and they're just regurgitating everything else that's been said and just the knowledge they've had from doing this longer than us. Yeah. And I think what you and I do is I think that's powerful. It's amazing. It's powerful. And it's like, I'm so glad that our paths have crossed.
Yeah, me too, man.
All right. You see so, but yeah, like a lot of it's all relatable. I mean, I don't know. I it's just you see the same things, and the people saying there's only one way to do it and stuff like that. And if it's, I think it's more beneficial just to step back and put it out there, and that's what we need to do, is just put it out there. There's people like us out there. You're hitting the social medias. I'm hitting the social medias, and I mean, that's, I think we got like balls the size of bowling balls, man, to be doing that, because I mean, that's a lot to put out there, man. So,
yeah, I think the only way to do it is, for me, the only way I can do it from here on out is to be completely and morbidly at times honest. You know, shy away from saying things like, yeah, I want to fucking drink. I wish I could go have a beer right now, you know, when I have, you know, those thoughts, but I just know I can't, because, you know, I heard, I think it was Jordan Peterson one time said, it was like, of course I want to drink because it feels good. You know, it's fun. It's fun to drink. Like, why the hell else would we do it? You know what I mean? So, to just be honest with your feelings. And, you know, I know that I felt in the rooms, as that's referred to in AA, you know, I would feel hesitant to share that open and honestly. And it was, I realize now that was mostly me making it awkward, because I've been so accepted with my honesty on Twitter and in other platforms, you know, me just coming on and say, today sucked. You know, I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm having terrible thoughts, and it's more of people are like, yeah, dude, I totally get it. I totally understand. Recovering out loud isn't for everybody. That's why you and folks like you and I have to do it. You know, what's the saying? You know, we recover out loud so people don't have to suffer in silence or something like that. You know, I don't know.
No, but I'm glad you brought up that thing about that Jordan Peterson thing, because it was funny the very next day, because we just talked about that Wednesday. You brought that, we were talking about that Wednesday, and you know, it's like, yeah, want to drink, but as alcoholics, it's not, I want to drink. It's I want the drunk.
Yeah,
I want the drunk. It's not a drink. And it was just weird, because you just brought that up, and that set in the back of my head, and that's something that's always brought up. You know, we think about, you know, tap, tap, tap. Oh, that'd be nice to have a drink. Or I could do this. But ultimately, it's not the drink, it's the drunk. It's not, it's and that's the fucked up part about all of this. It's not just I think you were talking about the jealousy of people that can drink normal and stuff like that. And see, you act like I don't pay attention to you.
Yeah, those people that can drink normally, they're assholes.
Yeah. You say they're assholes, and I'm just like, but we're the ones with this sickness and stuff like that, and so I kind of don't call them assholes anymore. But like sometimes
it's a term of endearment.
Oh, I get it
with love.
I get it, man. Well, it's just funny because like I sit at the lake and fish, and I'm just like, man, I used to be out and I'd go to bars and do this, that, and another, and this is my life now, just sitting out. It's because most of the time it's like peaceful solitude moments for me to be at the lake, but sometimes the thoughts just go. And I'm like, why are my thoughts even going there? And it's just intrusive thoughts, and we fall victim of that, and that's why I make sure I go to some type of meeting and stay in touch with other alcoholics. And that's like what you said, I always say what's the opposite of addiction is connection. And I think you said it I think you phrased it a little different, but I always go to like how my sponsor says it, and it's the power of two. One alcoholic getting another alcoholic, and I think that's where it's just like, it's not just a spark, it's like combustion, and I don't know.
Yeah.
You kind of see how we kick it on in like my Wednesday meetings. It's not like a normal thing. It's just because we don't sit and we don't get it out and we bottle it in. That's where our resentments, we get these resentments, and then our fears, and I don't know.
Well, I can tell you this: never before the work that I put in these 8 months, I would have never got onto a meeting with yourself, a dude that I just met, like basically that morning outside of a few messages, and a dude I'd never met before the meeting started. I would have never got on there and cried like a baby, as I started to do in my drinking times or in my other attempts. So I'm in a completely different mindset, and we drink, what we're craving, in my opinion, is that, and the big book says it, that immediate ease and comfort that comes with taking that first drink. That, like, I told the story before. When I first started recovery, I went into the basement where I always drank when I was engaged in living with Miley, and I went just through the motions. I held the bottle in my hand. There was no bottle, and then I unscrewed the invisible bottle's cap, and then I tipped it up and acted like I took a drink, and I felt something. There was something there, like something. I got a little bit of that feeling. It's a little bit psychological, obviously, but that ease and comfort that we get from the first drink is what we're looking for. And then the phenomenon of craving kicks in, and you want more because you want to keep that feeling. And the problem is, as alcoholics, we can't just sit with that feeling and enjoy it. And so now, in the recovery where I'm at now, I get that feeling where I want that immediate ease and comfort. I understand that everything doesn't come right now, but if I can outlast that feeling for just however many minutes it takes to change that thought, it's way better. It's way better. There's obviously nothing negative that comes with sitting and waiting that feeling out, or calling and talking about it, or going on a meeting with people you barely know and crying your eyes out. It's a better way to deal with it then, because we're never going to get that ease and comfort back from drinking. It never will stop there. Or I should say for me, it'll never stop.
Yeah, I have no shame sitting and, well, I don't now, but let myself become vulnerable with that, because that's how we heal, man. That's how we heal. If that's at first, it's just like, what do you mean heal? It's like I don't see a visible wound and stuff like that. It's hard for me to say, because it's just like I'm not a spiritual person or anything like that, because I've always been one of those people, is if I don't see it, I don't believe it, but I truly feel that it is healing now. And it's like how you said you were an atheist, but now you're not an atheist, and how our perceptions change and how we change our behaviors. And it's crazy what we can do when we're not putting poison in our body and letting it get back up to our head. So,
I just real quick, if you don't mind, one thing that helped me was developing a distinction between religious and spirituality. And once I was able to do that, that helped me break down that barrier. Because for me, the spiritual experience is sitting in the rooms of AA, especially at treatment. That was my favorite hour of every single day, where old ass men like me sit around a table and we're vulnerable. You know, there's tears, there's laughter. That is a spiritual experience to me. And once I made that distinction, you know, many things can be spiritual. And, you know, the saying is religion is for people who don't want to go to hell. Spirituality is for people who have been to hell and don't want to go back. And once I really grasped onto that concept of spirituality, like last night I was sitting here and the coyotes went nuts out in the woods out my bedroom window. And it was just so relaxing. You know, it's creepy to some people to hear those frickers out there going, like, you know, they're howling like they just killed something. Well, or they found a meal, and that's probably exactly what happened. But it's just, that's spiritual to me. Sitting around a bonfire is spiritual to me. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that might be struggling with that term too, because I know spirituality is linked to a religion of sorts, or you have that thought that that's what it is. It's not. They're two completely different things.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, but now you brought a resentment up because you're sitting there saying you're an old man sitting at a table and I'm older than you. Thanks a lot, man.
Okay, so in treatment, I was one of the old men. We'll just say that. Yeah,
I've got you by a few years, but now you're saying that if you're saying you're old, that means I'm like decrepit. Thanks a lot, Scott.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anything I can do to help.
No, I mean, that's the thing. I think of like spirituality and spirit and all that, and it is tied to religion to me.
Yeah.
But then again, it's just like you'd hear the word miracle and blessing and stuff like that. Now that was tied to that, and now I say, you know what, my recovery is a miracle, because I never thought I would ever get out of this and feel this great. And yeah, there's times life just sucks, but that's life, you know. And it's, at first it was me. My spiritual awakening was fixing my behaviors and changing the way I acted and reacted, and that's my work in progress right there. And my true personal belief is, like, you know, that, you know, Big Book says we pray our personal defects away and stuff like that. I don't think our personal defects ever leave us. It's just controlling them and dealing with them and not falling back into those old behaviors. But what you just said about the coyotes and stuff like that is, you know, that makes so much more sense to me, because I was sitting at the lake the other night and it was just, I heard the same thing, dude. the same thing. And I'm just like, I could like hear my heart beating when it started happening. And it was just in the middle of the night. I'm sitting at the lake watching my pools. And this isn't a moment I was like getting crazy thoughts or anything like that, but I'm just sitting there and start hearing you did the face better than me. So, but it gets louder, and it was just like really loud. Then I just felt so relaxed and at peace, just sitting there looking at the water, hearing that, seeing a little bit of the moon's reflection bounce off the lake. And
oh, that's awesome.
I'm just like, this is amazing.
It is. It's amazing that, you know, I know what you're saying because, you know, a lot of times I've typed out a tweet, you know, when somebody gives a compliment or something like that. I'm like, oh, I'm so blessed. And I delete it because I'm like, blessed. No, not blessed because I'm not religious. You know, it's stupid. It's just a word. So I changed it to I'm honored. I'm honored to be able to do this, and I'm honored to do that. I got to drop the rock, as I was told, with these terms because, you know, I'm associating these things. It's kind of the same thing when you're thinking about like trying to end the stigma of addiction. You know, you associate, you know, like needle users as, you know, and pill poppers, you know, like the hard drugs. That's a label that people use, like hard drugs. Well, you know what? Fucking alcohol is worse than all that shit, or just as bad, or every bit as bad. Why we have the stigma against, you know, the NA folks? Well, that's because alcohol is everywhere. It's glamorized and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to not worry about, you know, I'm trying not to beat myself on it. But I tell you, one of the greatest things, you know, you talked about the moon shining. I could see it in my mind's eye, dude, when you're talking about it. And it's just peaceful to even think about, you know, when the frogs come back when the weather starts to change, man. It's powerful stuff. It's a connection that I need to have. Absolutely.
Except they kicked it up the other night when I was laying in bed and I could hear him. I'm like, shut the fuck up! At that moment, it was peaceful. The other night, just like, shut up. Okay.
Are you a person that sleeps better in a thunderstorm, or does that keep you up too?
Oh, no, I can sleep through it, man.
Oh, I love it, dude. I'll wake up to a loud crack of thunder, and I'll just be like, awesome. Just the rain pouring down and the rumbles of thunder, man. I'm out like a baby.
My kids would keep me up because it'd be like go off and like, Daddy, it's a storm, man. I'm like, yeah. Oh my God. I was like, it's just thunder. And then my wife would be like, oh, it's God or anything. I'm just like, quit telling. I'm just like, quit just arguing about it because it's just like she's just trying to comfort the kids, and I get it.
Sure.
And that's the other thing about this is I was able to not let shit like that bug me. Every little thing bugged me, and you know I do you know I do I get on and do live readings and I read the big book and spit out the word God, higher power, spiritually blessed, miracle, and all that stuff, and it don't faze me. And you know, you get some people, well, you practice you know, you preach many paths. Yeah, there is many paths. And you know, and I was a naysayer and against all of this, but I'm just putting information out there. Learn how take what you need out of it. I'm not going to change the story. I met a guy that rewrote the big book, and all he did is basically he went through and took out all the God words and spiritually, and just ended up just like crossing all that out, wrote it as a book. And I can't remember the name of the book, but it's out there. And I'm just like, I thought that was like an ingenious way, but it's just also kind of like, I go back and think about it now to like where I'm at now. And it's just like, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, to each your own. If you want to do that and start your own thing, that's great. There are plenty of meetings at AA- or hyphen intergroup .org. You can find all kinds of secular meetings, atheist meetings, religious meetings. They're everywhere out there. I used to do the same thing. I felt so uncomfortable reading, how it works and all that reading with the God word. And it's like, if I'm at an AA meeting where that's what they're going to read and I want to change it, that means I'm making it about me and not the higher purpose of the meeting. So if I don't want to hear that, then I have the right to go to a different meeting. So I'm just, I know exactly what you're talking about getting annoyed by silly, ridiculous things.
You know what that's called right there? It's called progress.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of all that, man, I linked all like on my website meeting stuff and all the different ones. NA, then I put the intergroup on there, and then I put the secular spreadsheet on there. That way, anyone can just get on my the website mp2sobriety.org, and it's got that listed on there. I'm gonna get a thing on there to get our get your podcast linked up on there too. I need to do some updating on the website. You want to share your I think I already announced this, the Sober Heathen podcast. You want to do some plugs, man?
Oh, I appreciate you. I do have a website, thesoberheathen.com. It's probably not going to be something that's going to exist once my year's up. I just don't feel like I'm getting traffic on that, but it is there for now. Probably won't update it anymore, but there's some good stuff on there that I put on, some quotes that I learned in treatment and whatnot. But yeah, you can. I'm the Sober Heathen everywhere. Telegram, Facebook, Twitter. Telegram's brand new. I'm going to dig into that. But you can find me on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, everywhere. So, and the important thing there is to support the people that come on the podcast and share the story, to like and comment and all those things, and that shows support for those people and what we're trying to do, and that's spread the message of what the name of your podcast is, that there are many pathways to do this thing, and that's what's important. Appreciate you allowing me to throw the plug out there.
Well, of course, that's what this is for, man. You're doing the same thing I'm doing, and you do a very good job about it. And you stay on top of the social media is better than I do. So, but yeah, I will link all that stuff on the website. I've got other things. Hopefully, we'll be working on together. I'm hoping.
Yeah. Yeah. Got a panel thing coming up. There's a group with the Sober Dad podcast and Poison versus something. I feel bad that I can't remember exactly what it is, but we have a little group started. Maybe we can get you in there and be a part of our panel discussion. That'd be freaking awesome.
I'd be honored to, man. I would be honored. So I got to reach out to the Sober Dad. Because you brought that up, and that's why I was like, I'm behind on Twitter. I'm like going through, and I was like, oh, he followed me. I follow back. I'm just like, so yeah, because I'm so old. I'm horrible. So, Scott, I appreciate you coming on the show, brother. Means the world to me. Just lost for words. I've been all over the place today, but that's what it's about. Some days are better than others. More days I'm on point more than others, and appreciate you running the show. And the kids are becoming restless.
Well, thanks for having me on here, man, and make sure to check out my boy's Many Paths to Recovery. Hi. On TikTok, he's got some hilarious videos out there. That's what drew me in. So he's one hell of a dancer. We'll say that.